This is the Clean Energy Show with Brian Stockton and James Whittingham.
Hello and welcome to episode 65 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
I'm James Whittingham. This week, Brian gets his Tesla Model 3 cleaned and millions of people tune in to watch. We talk about Australia again and a gasoline shortage roundup. Plus, the IEA says we have to stop investing in fossil fuels now. Brian, the IEA was created to help fossil fuels, and now they're saying it's over fossil fuels. How are you this week, Brian?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Well, I'm trying to get a vaccine for my damn kids. They're now almost eligible. One of my kids is eligible today, and it's not as easy as it was before. They said, everyone, come free, come all. But there's nowhere to get a vaccine anymore. There's a 6-hour drive-through in Saskatoon.
Yeah, my kids are also eligible, so I'm, doing the hunt and so far haven't figured it out.
Yeah, some people are booking in pharmacies, but I find that a convoluted... I gave up, is what I'm saying. I tried to give up. Pharmacists don't want their phone ringing all day. They don't want their phone ringing. They don't have a telecom system set up for dealing with vaccine calls.
Yeah, no, and they've also announced that they're going to be handing out the vaccines at schools, so we're kind of waiting for more information on that.
Oh, yeah, it's going to start in June, but I want to be first. It's important that I be first. I want my kids to put this damn thing behind them and have freedom. Plus, my son is looking for a job. If you are one of the 10 people listening in our local community, my son is a good kid. He's looking for a job. And, if he gets vaccinated and puts that on his cover letter before anyone else, people should snap him up.
Maybe he could host the podcast instead of you.
Well, thanks. I have so little going for me in my life, Brian. This podcast is all that gets me up on Wednesdays. Anyway, it's a big week because you had your Tesla cleaned, and in a big way.
Yeah, well, normally getting your car cleaned wouldn't be any kind of a particularly interesting story to talk about. But anyway, I found out a couple of months ago that there's this YouTube channel called The Detail Geek. And this is the #1 channel on YouTube for car detailing. He is a master car cleaner. And by some weird coincidence, he happens to be located in our city of Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I found this out a couple of months ago. And I thought, oh, this would be fun to get my cars cleaned. And I did think that there was a chance he'd want to put the Tesla on the channel. And I was right. It turns out he hadn't cleaned a Tesla before. So he actually did both of our cars. And the cleaning job was absolutely stunning. Like both cars were like new after we got them back. But the Tesla video now, you can go onto YouTube, look for The Detail Geek, the Tesla Model 3 that he's cleaning there in the recent video. That's my car. And it's currently over 500,000 views on YouTube.
And 1,700, 1,800 comments now.
Yeah.
All of them talking about what a disgusting human being you are. And you know what? I'm going to read some of the comments. Do you mind if I read some of the mean comments about you?
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. And I want to preface it by saying the vast majority of the Detail Geek audience are extremely nice people. They're just like really excited to watch a car getting cleaned. And his fans are quite amazing. I'm very impressed by them in general.
In general, but they said a lot of mean things about you. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm okay with that. I got no problem with that.
Okay, well, here's 2 minutes of my kids reading those mean comments.
Bruh, it's not even that old. And it's expensive. The owner needs to appreciate it more and take care of it.
Who lets their car get that dirty?
I can't believe owning a Tesla for over a year and never washing it. What an idiot.
Tell me you like Starbucks without telling me you like Starbucks.
Imagine buying a Tesla Model 3 then dirtying it up like this.
I will never understand what motivates people to chuck rubbish into their cars. How does one just leave stains and spills and continue driving as if there's nothing wrong?
Jeez, who the hell drives a fucking Tesla in the winter and doesn't even wash the damn thing? They have way too much money.
I really wonder how clean his house is.
Del vento y lo tenía ya así de garo que las más de coche
The guy that owns this car does not deserve it.
When I saw all those Starbucks coffee things, I was like, oh, makes sense.
Does Canada only have dirt roads? Where do all these people drive that have that much dirt in their wheel wells?
How do you buy a car like this and not take better care of it?
I literally can't drive 2 feet without a Tesla owner cutting me off in traffic. The perks of LA, I guess.
Teslas are nice, but I feel like they're the Apple of EVs sometimes. Glorified Prius.
I don't think I've seen you laugh for such a prolonged time. Yeah.
Yeah, though that was excellent acting work from your kids there. That was brilliant.
Yes. So instead of mowing the lawn, they did this for me this week. So
now I want to address just one thing about the comments, and it's true there were a lot of those, Starbucks stopper things on the floor in the car.
yeah.
I did feel bad about that, but I also knew, it was going to be on the internet. And I could have just removed those so that I wouldn't look like as much of an idiot. But I knew that would make for an excellent video, a Tesla with all of these little Starbucks stoppers in it. And I knew that would be funny, and it turns out it was funny.
I think you should have put funny things in there. I would not have been able to resist putting funny, odd things on the floor under the car. A used condom or an open condom wrapper or what else. I mean, I'm not getting creative here, but there's probably some, a human finger, a human fingernail. My daughter's got into fake fingernails lately. Maybe we could put a fake fingernail under there, or a phone number and a piece of paper of someone who is not your partner. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I follow the Detail Geek on social media, and he just posted a thing. The car that he's got coming up this week, he found actually something dead inside of it. He didn't reveal what it is.
That's
but I'm thinking probably a mouse. It's pretty common around here to have mice get into things. And I'll also point out too that our other car is the Kia Soul, which he cleaned the previous week, and you can watch that video as well.
also disgusting.
Also disgusting, actually much more disgusting. But it's a bit of a competition in the household because that's more my partner's car, and the Tesla's mine. And so I'm very pleased that I've surpassed the Kia Soul in views. But also he did a nice thing on the Tesla video. When he was cleaning the front seat area, he put the Kia Soul video onto the Tesla display, and I thought that was a nice little touch.
That was funny. Everyone, half the comments are talking about that. He did have some things to say about the carpet as well.
Working my way around with the vacuum, and I'm sure there's a few of you out there wondering about the quality of carpet in here. And unfortunately, while the rest of the vehicle is built pretty well, the carpet is definitely on the cheaper side of things, and I'd say is just above the Velcro-like stuff from the Kia Soul last week. Although honestly, that's really not surprising, as good quality carpet can be very hard to find in vehicles these days.
Yes, well, he often comments on the quality of the carpet because it's something he sees up close, and he's got a real opinion about it. High quality carpets are easier to clean, so it does make a big difference. The only video of his I've seen where he actually liked the quality of the carpets was an expensive BMW SUV. So, yeah, and he also made a comment about the quality of the paint, but it's true, like Tesla is not known for the paint quality. It's maybe not the best, but, overall. Oh, and he also said, I'm a super cool guy. I don't know if you caught that, but...
Oh, I did, Brian. I did. I caught that, and I thought, who's he talking about? And it all made sense to me. This was his summary after cleaning the car, and he's a traditional automotive guy, so this was his first electric car.
All right, guys, well, 8 hours later, and the Tesla is looking spectacular, and I gotta say, I had way too much fun during this detail. It's probably a good thing I don't own a Tesla, because I'd literally be sitting there doing that summon thing like all day long.
So you gave him access to your app, which is very nice of you, and a very good ambassador-like thing for EVs to do, and the channel is going to have millions of views when it's all done, and that's good. But what was your experience like as a whole?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Like, first of all, he does an amazing job cleaning the car. But yeah, I was kind of hoping to get, the Tesla on the channel. It sort of introduces electric cars to maybe an audience that's not used to them. He said that there's 3 main detail channels on YouTube, and none of them had cleaned a Tesla before, which was sort of surprising to me. But I think that sort of community is maybe a bit more allied with the legacy automakers, the more conventional automakers. So, super fun to get the Tesla on there.
Yeah, it's great that you did that, and it's great that you gave him access to that so he can play with it. There's a small handful of Tesla haters on there, but there's also a lot of young women who are flirting with him but also want to own Teslas.
Yeah.
So he's a good-looking guy, my wife says, and I thought, okay, that's how you make it on YouTube. You got to be good-looking.
And he also plays guitar at the end of every episode, which is nice.
Oh, come on. I mean, give me a break. Anyway, thanks to the Detail Geek for cleaning Brian's filthy, disgusting car. His Model 3 in Regina, Saskatchewan here. I honestly thought that you would keep it cleaner than that. Just because you spent, the largest amount of money you've ever spent on anything but a house.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be mostly you in the car. But I guess that winter takes its toll, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there was an awful lot of sand, which is something, our roads are heavily sanded in the winter, and we have to sand our sidewalk going into the house because it gets all icy. So, it in my defense, it's spring. I had not done a spring cleaning yet. And I knew it was going to be on the Detail Geek and that it was going to be cleaned by somebody.
You can't give him a clean car. I mean, that's an issue. I thought the car would be too clean for him, and it was clean. Some people did point it out, but other people thought, no, it's such a nice car. How could it be dirty? How could you not, baby it? But,
no, and he has some very, very extremely dirty cars on the channel. But
yes.
I don't know, like, how dirty is your Nissan Leaf right now in comparison?
I would say it's the same without the Starbucks twister things. My partner probably has coupons under the seat.
No, and the other thing I'll say about Starbucks is that, again, there wouldn't normally be that many of those things, but it's a global pandemic, and I started using the drive-thru.
Blame it on the pandemic.
Yeah, I haven't been going inside to restaurants, so the Starbucks drive-thru is one of the few places to get decent coffee, without risking your life.
I just love all these comments. I just thank you to my kids, Aiden and Amelia, for reading those because it was lovely.
And again, the vast, vast majority, people were just really excited to see the Tesla and to see it be clean like that.
So, Brian, I've mentioned before that I've, in a bold move, put us on TikTok.
Right.
It's the tag Sneeze Media. And I'm finding it that people are watching our videos.
Oh, yeah.
And so now this is something I have to do now to promote our podcast.
Well, I've been thinking about getting onto TikTok mostly because it's not Facebook and it's not Instagram and therefore less evil.
Well, it was owned by the Chinese. Is it not owned by the Chinese anymore? I mean, how does that work?
That's true. I guess it's maybe
or is it just in the States?
Different kind of evil. I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, the Detail Geek put a link to our podcast in his show notes for the YouTube video, and our listenership is up. We have
fantastic.
Very good stats for the last week, so thank you to him for doing that.
Well, I want to talk about Australia again.
Oh, you're just an Australia freak now. Come on. What's in Australia?
It's ridiculous because so far, as far as I know, we have not proven that we have any listeners in Australia. We haven't heard from anyone.
No, not that I know of, no.
Yeah.
You have to contact us, Australia. If you're listening in Australia right now, put down your phone, contact us, cleanenergyshow@gmail.com, Clean Energy Pod on Twitter. Anyway, smoke signals, anything, talk to us.
But yeah, in the course of talking about Australia the last couple of weeks, it's sent me on different rabbit holes on the internet. And I just wanted to mention this because I came across this group on Facebook called My Efficient Electric Home, and it's based in Australia, and it's mostly Australians, and there's 28,000 members of this group. And I just thought it was interesting because we've been talking about, getting rid of natural gas in homes, but it's really much more of a thing in a place like Australia than it is in Canada. But I thought this group was just really interesting because I think this is kind of where Canada will be about 5 years from now, or the U.S. or the northern U.S. will be about 5 years from now. We're just not having this conversation yet. We need natural gas to heat our homes. We just don't. It's too inefficient to do with electricity right now. So there's this real push in Australia to get rid of natural gas, and it's easier for them to do because it's a much warmer place. And so gas is a kind of a much smaller component used for cooking and a little bit of heating. And Yeah, I just thought that was cool that there's 28,000 people in this Facebook group, and they're all talking about converting from, say, a gas cooktop to an induction cooktop, and that's what the the conversation's all about.
It's funny because the government down there has been kind of anti-climate lately, and yet it has the highest rooftop solar saturation in the world, over 25%, which is ridiculous. And but a complicated grid, as we've said before.
Yeah, it's I guess it's always a mixed bag in terms of what governments are doing, but for whatever reason, there's a real push in Australia to get rid of natural gas. So congrats to them. We're going to be having this conversation, but unfortunately, probably not for a couple of years.
Natural gas is so cheap thanks to fracking here. That's another problem, is that it is so cheap.
Yeah.
Mind you, in Canada, they're adding some carbon tax to that, but it's not great. So we're recording this on Wednesday, as we always do. And later today, Brian, the Ford Motor Company will be debuting perhaps the most important electric vehicle in some time, and that is the Ford F150 electric pickup, all-electric pickup. They have a hybrid out that they're advertising now, but this is the all-electric Ford F-150. We will have the details for you on next week's show. I hate it when breaking news comes out on the day of our recording, but anyway, it was interesting because yesterday Joe Biden went to the plant in Michigan, which they were going to shutter, and now they've made it all in on EVs, and he took it. He was joking about it, that the Secret Service wouldn't let him take it for a test drive. But they did. And this is him pulling up to the media after taking a test drive.
How's it drive? How does it feel? Would you buy one of these?
I would.
How does it feel to be behind the wheel, sir?
It feels great. I tell you what.
No, so now he takes it and he says, watch me, I'm going to floor it, and I'll take it off the pedal at 80, and he just takes off. And the media just kind of swoons at how fast it is. So it's still covered in camo, and you can see the clips on YouTube and Twitter and wherever. But yeah, he's liking it. And this is a guy who drives a Corvette, so he likes his cars fast.
80 miles an hour.
And it's a F-150, as you've said before. This is the highest selling vehicle in North America.
Yeah,
or
it
Canada,
is.
Or?
It's the highest best selling vehicle period in North America, and he's just sitting in there having a great time. Driving, and the Secret Service member is with him, just nervously sitting at the passenger seat. And there it goes! He takes off 0 to 60, and we don't know. He was speculating 4.4 seconds, but they haven't released it, and that's the media kind of all impressed with the takeoff time of the Ford F-150. But they're asking about Israel and much more important things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's cool, and we'll see how much it can tow and how far it can drive, and the pricing, and it'll be available mid-2022. But this is a huge vehicle. It is going to change perceptions when the number one selling vehicle in the most EV-hesitant part of the world goes to electric, and my hunch is that it will have some impressive performance things where you'll have to say, if I want gas, it'll be a compromise.
I want to talk about Australia again. I don't know, but I would think that pickup trucks are probably pretty big in Australia as well. So, and they've been very quiet on the EV adoption front. It's going very slowly there, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah,
the Ford F-150 could be a big vehicle for Australia as well.
There was actually a few people on the comments of your cleaning video that were going, I'd love to get a Tesla, but it's this much in Australia and takes this much time to get there, and which is very, very unfortunate. Brian, it's time for one of our favorite segments, What Do You Think?
What do you think?
This is where I ask Brian what he thinks about things, because I don't understand everything, and I wait until Wednesday and ask him on the show. Brian, Kia's first dedicated EV, the 2022 EV6, odd name, launches in Times Square, I believe yesterday or earlier in the week. Now, they have the Kia Soul, but there's also a gas variant of it, and they sort of just used the same chassis and made an EV version. But this is the first ground-up EV, the EV6. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's one of those EVs I'm really looking forward to. As we've said before, I'm a big fan of Hyundai Kia, kind of the same company. They've done really good things with EVs so far, and the Ioniq 5 from Hyundai and the EV6 from Kia, basically the same platform. These are coming out very soon. They're going to have decent range, decent performance. These are excellent cars, excellent charging, fast charging. The only question is price. We just don't know the price yet. And I suspect that people are kind of waiting for, obviously, prices to come down, but I don't think these are necessarily going to be the cars where that happens. I think they're going to be pretty much priced similar to the equivalents from Tesla, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Why is that?
Well, supply is still going to be limited. Everybody has limited supplies of EVs. If they priced it real low, they probably couldn't possibly make that many.
So they have to price
you almost
it high.
have to keep the price kind of high to, satisfy a certain level of demand.
I get the sense that Tesla's doing that, don't you think? I think they could go lower with their prices, but they just can't keep up. But once all these factories open in Austin and Berlin, things might change.
Yeah, Tesla has tons of demand. That's been the rumor, that the second quarter is already sold out. That right now they have no reason to lower prices because they've got tons of demand and the competition just isn't there yet. So if, the EV6 comes out and the Ioniq 5 comes out and it's $20,000 cheaper suddenly than the Tesla, then, they might have to look at lowering prices, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
So how would you describe the EV6 form factor? Is it a crossover? How does it compare to some of the other ones we've seen?
Yeah, it's a crossover. It's really just kind of a large hatchback is probably really the correct name for it, but for whatever reason, crossover is the name that everyone's using these days.
There was 10 to 20,000 Tesla vehicles on containment hold due to a parts supply issue. Do you know anything about that? That confused me.
No, only read the story from Electrex. So as everybody knows, there's been various parts shortages like computer chips and so forth, but it's been a real challenging supply chain. And they mentioned that on the last Tesla earnings call, that this supply chain is the most challenging that they've ever faced. And actually, yeah, Elon Musk told a great story about like a few years ago where they were short on USB cables and they couldn't get them from their supplier. And they literally had Tesla employees driving around California buying up all the USB cables that were in stores in California.
Wow.
And that's how they, made do a few years ago when they had a shortage. So, yeah, no one knows what part it is, but it's a part that can be apparently just added later. It doesn't have to be added at the factory. So they've got 10 to 20,000 cars just sitting in parking lots somewhere waiting for whatever part it is. And when they get it, technicians are just going to go out to the parking lot and apparently install it.
Could be a light bulb, could be a flasher switch, it could be a USB cable. We don't know. That's fascinating. And they, instead of not making the cars, they went ahead and made the cars and put them on hold. Well, you helped me understand it, so thank you.
Sure.
In a survey, the Tesla Cybertruck beat out the F150 Lightning and Hummer EV in a U.S. electric truck survey. Now, that surprises me. I thought in the truck world that the Cybertruck would be not doing too great, that it was mostly Tesla fans and some other people. But, it surprises me that people are more interested in the Cybertruck.
Yeah, perhaps it just had gotten more publicity by the time that survey was out. I mean, we're really only hearing about the F-150 today in their official announcement, so that could be the reason.
That's true. Yeah, the Cybertruck, because of the snafus in the presentation on the unveiling, the breaking the window, it got more publicity than you could ever ask for. I'm going to think hundreds of millions of dollars of publicity, I guess. So this has been another edition of What Do You Think?
What do you think?
All right, Brian. I have a new segment here. I don't know if I have an intro for it. Let's say I don't. It's called What Did James Learn? And I'm always learning something that I didn't know every week.
But it's probably a very short segment.
It's a short segment. Yes, it's a short segment. And it is. I've talked about, floating solar before in the show and how my solar panels, now that we have warm weather here, you can see that the efficiency is going down once it hits 25 degrees on the roof. Well, I often wondered what the efficiency gain would be from a floating solar panel, and I assumed, people haven't even mentioned this in the articles, that it increases the efficiency. Well, now I have the number. That number is 12.5% more efficient. So you get 12.5% more electricity from floating that panel on water.
And is that because the water keeps it cool?
And that's because the water keeps it cool. Yeah, and this would be, this is going to vary from climate to climate. Obviously, if we're talking Arizona or somewhere that's gets very hot very easily and you're floating that, but it also protects the water. It also keeps the water cooler and keeps it from evaporating, which is why they're talking about putting it in some of the channels in LA and California as just the irrigation canals. So, anyway.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I wanted to talk about the gas shortages in the southern U.S. This is sort of old news by now, but it's still very interesting. Plus, I have a fascinating clip to play. Speaking of the detail geek, I've made exactly one viral video, and it's called Same Joke, Different Shows. And I posted it a couple of years ago. And I had noticed this phenomenon of late night comedy shows, which I had been tending to watch, that sometimes you'd see the same joke appear on different shows. And so over several months, I collected a bunch of these, put it on YouTube, and ended up with, it's about 130,000 views. So I'm no detail geek in terms of views, but I was very proud of my one viral video. And I made a part 2 and a part 3, and nobody watched them. I think the YouTube algorithm shut me out.
Too dirty.
Possibly. It's too close to home in terms of, the copyright powers that be and the corporate owners of all of these comedy shows. So I think I may have been shadow banned by YouTube, but who knows? Anyway, I just happened to catch an instance of this again, and it relates to the gas shortage. It relates to Tesla. But I found the same joke on 3 different comedy shows.
3.
And we'll play that clip now.
The Colonial Pipeline restarted operations yesterday, 5 days after being shut down by a cyber attack, which is good because we were reaching dangerous levels of smugness in Tesla owners.
Anyway, the pipeline is back up and running now, so if you drive a Tesla, you will not have the opportunity to look down on others this weekend.
All of this stems from Friday's cyber attack that disabled the Colonial Fuel Pipeline, leading to temporary shortages and more than 10,000 closed gas stations. Even worse, it made Tesla owners even more insufferable. I only go to the gas station for wiper fluid. I'm one of them.
Yeah, so you can hear Stephen Colbert whispering at the end, "I'm one of them."
I read his lips,
So
but I couldn't hear it. You enhanced the audio there for us, so that's
yeah,
good.
exactly. So Colbert is apparently a Tesla owner. So yeah, that was Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel, and Colbert. The wording was not exactly the same. Sometimes the wording varies quite a bit, but it is
kind of the same joke, though.
It is the same joke for sure. Smug Tesla owners, but apparently Colbert is one of them.
Well, I noticed that too. I DVR 2 of the late night shows each day and watch the monologues and see what's going on. See if there's any pertinent information for the Clean Energy Show. What's Jimmy Fallon doing?
Yeah, so in the process of putting together these clips, I was actually hoping to get more than 3 of the same jokes. Like, part of the technique is if I notice a couple repeat jokes, then I make sure I listen to all of the monologues from all of the shows. And I think 4 is the record. I think I've had 4
Really?
Of the same joke. So I was hoping to get as many as 4, but it topped out at 3. But anyway, yeah, Jimmy Fallon was also talking about the gas shortage, and I pulled a clip from that too because I thought it was a nice summary of everything that had happened in the southern U.S.
People are panic buying gas, and one couple stocking up went viral today. Look at this. Yeah. They drove about 8 feet before they passed out from the fumes. And that was a minivan, too, so you know there are kids involved. Should we roll down the windows? Hunter looks sleepy, honey. Well, at least they use proper containers. Listen to what other people are putting gasoline into.
The panic buying of gas on the East Coast getting so bad. Take a look at what the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission just tweeted out saying, do not fill plastic bags with gasoline.
Just like that, we're right back in the world's do not travel list. I mean, what? Some people are like, would it be safer if I put the gasoline in balloons and I swallow them?
So what do you think is happening here? Are people getting dumber, or we're just seeing more evidence about it because the internet allows people to share images so quickly and easily of things like people filling up plastic bags with gasoline, which I saw more than one photo of people doing that.
Putting gasoline in plastic bags first of all, the hoarding was stupid to begin with because there was no need to hoard. The hoarding caused the shortage.
That's what caused the shortage, was the hoarding.
I'm proud during the toilet paper crisis of 2020 that when we finally found toilet paper, we only bought as much as we needed and we did not hoard. But my wife still complains about how much we spent on that. She's so cheap when it comes to toilet paper if it's not on sale. Anyway, we spent a lot and got some. And, I enjoyed it.
But also the other thing the clip pointed out was just how normalized it is to use gasoline in our cars. Like, this is a noxious, flammable thing. Like, the fumes are deadly. It's deadly if it explodes. Like, this is not a smart thing to be using every single day in our vehicles. And clearly electric is a smarter way to go. But we're just so used to it. This has been going on for 100 years now.
I know. And I would say, it is the cameras. But it's, I don't know. I think the pandemic's made some people stupider, Brian. I really do. But I just think that there's these trolls that are commenting on things like anti-EV people on the internet. They'll say, well, if your power goes out, you can't go anywhere. Well, not true, because you've got a full battery, right? When the power goes out, you probably got a full battery. Now, I'll remind people that gas pumps take electricity to pump. They don't just pump with rodents, running on a wheel. And the transaction to pay for it takes electricity. So, you can drive to a different place to get gas. You can drive to a different place to get electricity for your car. And I thought the same thing when I watched those videos. I probably, if I was a writer for one of those shows, I probably would have made that joke or tried to. And so it's just, that's what came to mind when I saw that.
Yeah, and also Tesla has become, especially in America, and they have something like 73% of the electric vehicle market in America. Tesla has become synonymous with electric cars. Instead of saying electric cars,
it's like Kleenex.
It's like Kleenex as a brand name people just say Tesla instead of electric car.
Everybody knows about Tesla, which is maybe one reason why the Cybertruck did so well in that survey. Brian, it's time for the EV of the week.
EV of the week.
Guess what, Brian? Surprise, surprise, I'm going with the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus. Why? Because you own it and you got it cleaned in front of millions of people this week. So why not talk about it as our EV of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
It comes with 263 miles of range, which is 423 kilometers. In the United States, it sells for $38,000 US. It goes from 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. It is a 5-passenger sedan. And about 315 kilometers on range on the highway in mild weather, and charges its battery only at 50 kilowatt, or charges, it has a 50 kilowatt hour battery. Is that correct, or is it 50 kilowatt hour usable? Why don't you correct us on that?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably 50 kilowatts usable.
55 and 55, or 55 exists and 50 usable. The limited warranty covers 4 years. Or 50,000 miles. Powertrain warranty covers 8 years or 100,000 miles. Not too shabby. What do you think of your car?
Well, it's an important car here in Canada because it qualifies. It's really the only Tesla that qualifies for the federal rebate of $5,000. So it's really the best deal if you're looking to try and get into an electric car at a decent price. We were talking about Hyundai and Kia. Like, they do have offerings starting around 45,000 Canadian dollars. The Model 3 Standard Range Plus is 52,000 Canadian dollars. So you can get a decent range electric car cheaper in Canada, as low as 45, but that's the base model. It doesn't have all the features. So, I think really the Model 3, I mean, it's a sedan, so you may not want a sedan. Maybe the Kona electric EV is better for you as a form factor. But, this is a really important car. And I do think the price will come down, as we were talking about earlier, as soon as Tesla gets more production rolling, as soon as more competition comes. This is a car they will be able to bring down in price for sure.
How would you describe it to somebody who's thinking about getting an EV and hasn't had one before?
Well, it's kind of a standard sedan in many ways. It's a decent-sized car. It's the biggest car I've owned. I tend to buy small cars. This is a little bigger, maybe mid-size is what you'd call it. And the other thing I would point out, it gives you access to the Tesla supercharging network, which was, again, like, sort of the final thing that made me decide to get it. Because as we discussed a long time ago, I really was looking to buy from Hyundai or Kia. That was kind of my plan. I kept kind of waiting for those cars to become available. And eventually it was like, okay, well, the Tesla, it's a few thousand more, but you get access to the Tesla charging network, the Tesla updates. It's clearly a better electric car, even though the others aren't bad.
All right. Well, coming up later, it is the lightning round. And that's where we clean up the headlines from the week and everything we've missed and briefly go through them very quickly. Brian, we have some late-breaking news now. This is from Electric, and it says that Tesla loans Model Y to UFC fighter Benail Dariush after he called out Elon Musk for delay. Have you been following this story?
A little bit. So, yeah, this is a UFC fighter. He won the fight, and in the post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, who's had Musk on the podcast, I don't know. It's apparently sometimes when fighters win a fight, they decide to bring up something completely unrelated, and he said, I ordered my Tesla 6 months ago, and I haven't got it yet, and which was pretty funny, and now they've given him a loaner.
Well, that's nice. Anyway, I've got a big story here from the International Energy Agency. This is an agency founded by governments during the oil crisis of the 70s, which you and I participated in, to make sure that rich countries don't run out of oil again. And guess what the report says? It says we need to end new oil, gas, and coal funding right now to reach net zero, says the IEA.
Today, the head of a major energy organization said something that isn't quite as catchy, but might be just as radical.
There is no need for new fossil fuel supply investments.
That is Fatih Birol of the International Energy Agency.
So, they are saying the IEA could do this. The global economy would grow faster than it would otherwise if we did, but we have to start immediately. Hello, Alberta. Governments should stop approving new fossil fuel projects right today because it's pointless and hurtful. And what we need is huge investments in renewables, which will kickstart the economy. This is the IEA saying this. And no new gas cars after 2035. Thoughts on this, Brian Stockton?
It's a very big deal. We've talked about the International Energy Agency before. They tend to be a very conservative organization. They tend to have very conservative forecasts for, the future of energy. And in many ways, they've just been kind of saying business as usual. And sure, oil and gas might decline, but it's going to be very slow. Well, this is different. They've changed tactics. If we're going to get to net zero emissions by 2050, which is, a very long way away, we got to stop now. And it just makes sense. Like it's a better use of money. Sure, we could spend more money getting more oil and gas, but that money would just be much, much better spent on clean energy initiatives.
So investors, they say, should not fund new oil, gas, and oil supply projects if the world wants to reach net zero emissions by mid-century 2050, the IEA said on Tuesday, and in the top global watchdog's starkest warning yet to curb fossil fuels, they're saying the pathway to net zero is narrow, but still achievable. If we want to reach net zero by 2050, we do not need more investments in new oil, gas, and coal projects. Faith Burrell, the IEA's executive director, told Reuters, "This is a massive blow to the fossil fuel industry. This is a complete turnaround of the fossil-led IEA from 5 years ago," said Dave Jones, global program lead. at Ember Think Tank. So I'm quite shocked by this, Brian, and I've been watching the EIA for years, and they're like saying EVs will never happen, gas and oil going up, solar level forever, completely different. I mean, I'm shocked.
We have plenty of supply because we've either already reached peak demand for oil or we're going to hit the peak very, very soon. But the infrastructure we currently have for getting oil and gas out of it's plenty because it's just going downhill from here in terms of demand.
All right, Brian, it's time for the lightning round, I'm afraid to say.
The Clean Energy Show lightning round.
And we have a shorter show this week, which is amazing. It's in a way refreshing because it'll use less electricity around the world because so many people are listening to us that it actually does affect the global electricity markets. So the Tesla autopilot might have saved the life of a driver who fell asleep at the wheel in Wisconsin. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Let me fill you in. A deputy was dispatched to I-94 northbound for a report of a Tesla whose driver appeared to be asleep at the wheel as it crossed over the Illinois-Wisconsin state line. You cannot cross a state line while asleep at the wheel. It is a major felony in the States. The deputy spotted the vehicle as it passed ST-158 on I-94 and approached the vehicle from behind. After this, the deputy pulled alongside it to watch the driver and noted the driver's head was down. The driver was not looking at the road. You know, one of these days we're going to find a dead guy driving a Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
It's not funny, but true. And the Tesla will take care of it. It will take the cadaver and slowly pull over eventually, I think, hopefully. The deputy activated his lights and siren to initiate a traffic stop, and the driver didn't pull over as the deputy followed behind it for around 2 miles, going at 82 miles an hour in Kenosha County. It was when the deputy pulled alongside the Tesla again that the driver noticed he was being stopped, and he woke up and pulled over. And there's going to be so many wacky autopilot and self-driving stories that we'll be covering here on the Clean Energy Show over the next 9 years before we pull the plug in 2030. Any thoughts on this? How did it remain activated? Let's start there.
Yes, because in order for your autopilot to keep working, you have to have your hands on the steering wheel, and there has to be some kind of weight. So I would suspect the driver kind of fell asleep with his hand resting on the wheel, which is how I tend to drive on the highway. You just kind of always have some weight on the wheel, and so it doesn't bug you every minute to touch the wheel.
Yeah, I think that a cadaver could do that too. Your thoughts?
Yes, a cadaver could put weight on the steering wheel, yes. Dead man driving.
And so we look forward to that story. Stay tuned to the Clean Energy Show for that. Tesla is the most Googled investment opportunity in the world. I hope you were sitting down for that, Brian.
Yeah, well, the stock is still down. It's down about 30% from its all-time high of a few months ago. Yeah, I don't know. That just means it's a good time to buy if you believe in the long-term growth of the company, like I do.
Okay. I think there's a lot of people who saw that stock skyrocket, like I did, helplessly. And, everybody wants to get rich, generally speaking. Yeah. I know people listen to our show for investment advice, and they just got some from you. Elon Musk says sorry to the UFC fighter. Was it UFC? It was UFC after being called out. It pays to be a celebrity. And then they lent him a Model X. But, if you ever have a problem with your car, I think you should mention it on the show, because I'm pretty sure that Elon listens. Why wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's a big fan.
Everyone at Tesla listens. So if you're listening and Brian ever has a car problem, but they're probably thinking it's too filthy. They're probably thinking, we're not taking care of him. He's bad for our image because he doesn't vacuum. 2 floating wind turbines are better than 1. So there's a company, we've talked about floating wind turbines before, because sometimes the ocean is too deep, and there's sometimes, my son points out that the strait between Vancouver Island and the mainland in BC in Canada is very difficult to build a bridge, because there's like a kilometer and a half of sediment on top, and then and the bedrock's quite low. So there's some cases for floating wind turbines. And I guess they've made one that kind of looks like an old school TV rabbit ears. So it's one floating barge, but two turbines that don't go straight up, but kind of off to the side a little bit at an angle. And they've discovered that that is a good way of doing things. The devil's in the details. If you know your wind farms, you know that turbines in proximity to each other can actually interfere with the other share of the wind available. So they have to do computer modeling on these things. And this is one of the things that has led to greater efficiency, not in the individual turbines, but in the deployment of farms offshore. And they've figured out how to do this so that they get the most efficiency out of them. Anyway, this is an interesting story. They have this dual floating turbine that they're trying out now from the Hexacon company. Anyway, your thoughts? Any thoughts on floating wind, floating solar, floating wind?
Not really, but yeah, I'm always wondering what the optimum configuration is for this stuff, and obviously they're figuring that out.
Yeah, you know what I just saw before we did the show this morning? I saw something on Twitter of a so-called train in China that drives on the road, and it's self-driving, and they made this special marking which looks like sort of a leopard skin in a narrow foot-wide stripe, so it follows the stripe. It was 3 passenger cars, and it kind of does look like a high-speed train, and people pointed out, well, it's just an electric bus with two electric bus towing 2 other electric buses that all sort of go in the same. But it's interesting because I remember Tony Seba saying that you don't need to build high-speed rail. When you have really good automated transportation, you could actually send buses automated at high speeds on existing infrastructure, and they're not going to crash because of the automation of every vehicle that's on the road, assumably at that point. And it would be safe to do so. I don't know how bumpy it would be.
Yeah, it's true. I'm a big fan of high-speed rail, but yeah, in the future it may not be necessary because we'll have high-speed roads. But, there is issues like around here where people run into deer quite often on the highway. You've run into a deer. So I don't know. It's not foolproof.
I'd like to apologize to the Wyoming deer. We still talk about it regularly at the dinner table. The kids are awful, as you can tell. Christians tell the Church of England to get out of shell. 19 clergy have written to the church commissioners and the Church of England Pensions Board asking them to divest from fossil fuels immediately, as this is exacerbating the climate emergency. So it's nice to see when organized religion turns against fossil fuels instead of saying...
That's surprising.
Yeah. So that's a little positive for you this week. The Chinese media outlet has apologized to Tesla for FUD. Perhaps other media outlets should take note, says Electric. Did you follow that story, Brian?
Yeah, of course, there's been a lot of Tesla bad news in China, but a lot of it's just simply been incorrect. So one of the news sources actually apologized about making a mistake and tried to correct it, which is not normal. Usually these kind of incorrect stories go out and that dominates the news cycle, and then there's some sort of correction a couple days later and everyone just ignores it and doesn't bother reporting on it.
Yeah, and the fact that it came from China is kind of interesting, and not here. So the communists are doing a better job with an open open press, a free press. Here, Brian, this is how Pakistan is building a green future. I have 5 points here. 60% renewable target by 2030. This is Pakistan. They've completely canceled coal. They've created more than 85,000 green jobs to date and plan on continuing to expand that. They've opened 15 new national parks and planted 1 billion trees so far and are exploring a debt for nature scheme to implement 10 billion tree tsunami. That means that they'll plant trees for you and offset your carbon. And that is a huge thing in Pakistan. Canada, what are you doing, my fellow country?
Yeah, no, that's an amazing good news story, and I had not heard a thing about it.
Yeah, I got that from a fellow Asad Razouk I follow on Twitter. He's full of really good information. He doesn't tweet often, but when he does, it's very good. So Texas wants to charge Tesla and other EV owners $400 in annual fees for owning an EV. Slightly more than what, in Canadian funds terms, a lot more than what they're charging here in Saskatchewan, which we just had a deal with a few weeks ago, Brian. Not happy about that at all. But Texas is doing it. Why wouldn't they? Even though there's a manufacturing plant from Tesla in Texas.
Mm-hmm. I mean, these kind of fees are inevitable, but it's certainly sad and disappointing to see them this early in the game.
All right, Brian. Finally this week, a new study has revealed that subsidies for electric bikes are more cost-effective than subsidies for electric vehicles when it comes to reducing greenhouse gas emissions from passenger cars. That's not too surprising. A bike is a lot smaller and less carbon intense rather than a car and a car battery. The study's focus was on the greenhouse gas impacts of subsidies for e-bikes, battery electric vehicles, and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles in Portland, Oregon, and found that e-bike subsidies were the most cost-effective way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I guess it's good to subsidize e-bikes. I wish I had one. You wish you had one. Get out there and buy an e-bike, and governments around the world provide some subsidies. That's it for this week's show. Next week, we'll have the details of the F150 Lightning, the first electric pickup truck from a major established motor company, the number one selling vehicle in North America. We look forward to that, and we'll see you again next week, Brian.
Yeah, see you next week.